Please join me in welcoming Dr. Sheree Watkins, a national respected clinician, psychotherapist, and the Associate Vice President of Student Health and Wellness at the University of Utah. With more than a decade of leadership in mental health, substance use counseling, and public health, Dr. Watkins is a steadfast advocate for marginalized communities. A published author and dynamic speaker, she challenges us to center healing, well-being, and equity in all that we do. And so in the words of Michelle Obama, your story is what you have, what you will always have, and it's something to own. And so with that being the case, Dr. Watkins helps us and others reclaim and rewrite their stories with compassion, courage, and purpose. So please help me welcome Dr. Watkins.
Good morning. Good morning. I first have to give a shout out to my peoples from the U. Second, shout out for any of my homegrown, hometown people from North Carolina, if we happen to be here. All right. So I want to get started this morning as I thought about what to talk with you all about, and so I came up with the title, Lead to Liberate, Disrupt to Heal, Reimagine Higher Ed from the Inside Out. And so some of you all will definitely get to know me this morning, as I'm definitely a disruptor. And so I want to start out with just leading with this positionality statement. And if you've never heard of what a positionality statement is, it is a statement to say that I do have some positions, meaning that I am an AVP, so I do sit in a position of power. I am also first gen. I do have a hidden disability. I am living with lupus. I also am neurodiverse. I have 2 children, one who is neurodiverse, and then I also have an awesome son who is on the autism spectrum disorders. So that means that I do this work differently. And so that means I also have a position in how I speak and deliver my messages. And so I just want to be very transparent that when I say certain aspects of wellness and mental health and disability and advocacy, it comes from a different space and comes from a different voice. So let's get started. Today, I bring forth this message, and this is a call to transform institutions through healing-centered leadership and systemic change. And I want to get us started with this question. Can higher education dare to disrupt tradition and build a system where human-centered leadership and collective well-being be non-negotiable? It's an honor to stand before you this morning, not just as an associate vice president, but as a fellow professional who has walked many paths through burnout and breakthrough, isolation and intention, mask wearing and even unmasking. I spent a long time thinking about what to say to you this morning, knowing that each of you walked into this very room carrying something different. Maybe you are here looking for new tools, new purpose, or even confirmation. Whether to lean in or to let go. Whether you're finding your way forward in higher ed or wondering if your path is pulling you towards something else, because that's wellness too. So today, I come not with prescriptions or even promises, but with lived experience, shared reflection, and an invitation to reimagine how we lead, no matter what seat you're sitting in, and how we live today, in the ways that we honor both who you are right now and who you want to become. Drawing from our personal journeys and how we inform our authentic leadership, creating space for collective wisdom and mutual growth, and embracing courage, clarity, and care in our leadership approach. I give an invitation to reimagine our leadership. A little bit of history about my unexpected pathway to leadership. Very interesting. I began college thinking that I wanted to become a nurse. Why? Because my mother, my grandmother, and my aunties, all of them were nurses. I want to be just like them. I even earned my CNA in high school through the HOSA program. But y'all, them hard sciences, they weren't my friend. We didn't get along, not at all. And that closed that door very quickly. But then I met this man who was about 4'7". His name was Dr. Barnes. Rest in peace. He just passed away about 2 years ago. And he opened this doorway to an unexpected conversation to a major called Health Education and Promotion. Never heard of it. And I looked at him and I said, tell me more. But that pivot opened a pathway rooted in prevention and advocacy. First, as a peer health educator, where I used to stand on the yard and pull condoms up to my elbow. Then working with HIV positive patients, rural farm workers, and underrepresented students in our nursing program. But I kept asking, how do we make our systems more human? How do we get to these root causes and make long-term impact? This question led me to a dual degree in counseling and rehabilitation, where I embraced care models that connected disability and mental health and substance use. And from there, I worked in the very first population health clinic called Ryan White, where we built care models. And then I moved and transformed into hematology, working with sickle cell patients and hemophilia patients. And then I moved and began to teach in academic affairs. But then eventually, burnout and bias pushed me out. And I took a leap and I moved abroad. It was the first time in my life that I left North Carolina. My very first passport. The first time anyone in my family had left and lived overseas. My grandmother took out the oil. And it was there I realized something powerful. I got to build my own trajectory. That nursing no was not a failure, but it was a redirection. And every step since, from prevention to population health, to leadership, has shaped me into something no one can replicate. I learned to own my own power, and I became a triple threat. Today, I stand proudly before you as the only AVP who is triply licensed. And I say that one more time, as the young people do. I stand before you as the only AVP who's triply licensed in mental health, substance use, and disability. And I have 2 degrees, a bachelor's and a master's in health education and promotion. Thank you. There are multiple AVPs when we sit around the table at ACHA and NASPA who have degrees in MPHs and MDs and REC and MPAs, but my pathway is different. My voice is different. And I learned that that is not a liability, that is my superpower. And I tell people all the time that I coach and that I sit with, it is okay to be different. It is okay to be the first. It is okay not to walk the linear pathway, to have the BSW, the MSW, the DSW. It's okay to let your light shine even when it makes other people uncomfortable. But it took time. There are so many leadership lessons that I could possibly share with you. But the most important that I had to learn along this navigation pathway is that I had to learn to care for myself. And in order to do that, I had to learn and know who I am and whose I am. I found mentors, those who look like me and those who don't, because each one is important. I had to find advocates and agitators, because both were needed. And one of my favorite quotes that I learned to lean into is that you can't lead others until you first lead yourself. And you can't lead yourself until you know who you are. Robin Sharma. And most importantly, I love me. All of me. Even the parts that are imperfect. Even the parts that intimidate others. And then I finally found my voice. It took time. But now that I found her, I protect her fiercely. I lead from a place of clarity, not compliance. And I know that every seat that I've ever sat in, even this one, I've earned. And I intend to open doors for others to follow. When I am well, I lead well. And my staff that's sitting here in the audience will tell you that, because they know that I will shut down a department in a minute. They will tell you. But let's talk about redefining wellness and well-being. Because oftentimes when I hear those two words, they're not defined the same way. So I want to make sure when we're talking about it that we're talking about the same thing. We need to make sure that when we're talking about wellness, wellness is the doing. It is the active pursuit of balance across every aspect of our lives. Because wellness and well-being is not the same thing. Wellness is the doing, the pursuit of trying to have some type of balance. And the easiest way that we define it is also known as what we call the small I. That is us, your individual self. We often define it by dimension. Some of us use 7, some say 8. At the U, we call it the 9 dimensions. And it requires ongoing effort each and every day. Well-being, however, is the feeling. It is the lived experience of thriving when those dimensions are aligned with who we are and what we value. It is our values and beliefs. So if well-being is the feeling of thriving, then it can only take root in a culture where people feel seen, safe, and supported. I'm gonna say that one more time. If we're talking about workplace wellness, occupational health, all the things, if well-being is the feeling of thriving, it can only take root in a culture where people feel seen, safe, and supported. So as we're talking about psychological safety in workplace environments where we recognize that we can normalize tough conversations about whole person health and wellness, we gotta start having the conversations in our meetings. We gotta start having conversations and continue conversations that not every student needs counseling, that health and financial literacy are essential to retention, and that the campus recreation center isn't just about where students go to work out and play, it's where they go to heal and to belong and to become whole. But that's not our current reality for some of our institutions. So let's be honest, where are we currently? We keep saying we're in a mental health crisis, but we are in year, 5 or 6? We can't still be in a crisis. And yet prevention remains underfunded. We're being asked in our various different student affairs departments to do more without being given more. Okay. And while the rise of the Okanagan Charter and conversations about population health and upstream prevention and engagement are promising, they're often spoken about more than they're actually implemented. But what does it really look like to build a culture of care that's actually in action, that's actually application and applied? Because population health focuses on addressing the root cause of issues to prevent them from actually occurring in the first place. But yet we are still nationally known as firefighters. I can tell you that I got firefighters all up and down in my family as cousins. I actually got 3 of them. And the things that they have to do to become firefighters and maintain their credentials, I can't even imagine what they have to navigate daily. But then I remember what we have to navigate daily also. But some of this can be prevented. Because population health says that there are 4 main aspects that we need to focus on if we're going to do good work. Understand what the root cause is, implement early intervention, create a systems approach, and then realize the data for the long-term impact. Because if we realize what the long-term impact is, we hopefully can look and understand that wellness can be for everyone, because student success can be for everyone. But we pause and ask the question, is our campuses actually created to provide wellness for everyone? And is student success for everyone? What is your current retention and graduation rates for all students? So how do we remain intentional about providing access to health and wellness resources for every single student, regardless of their identity? First, y'all, that's the country in me. We gotta redefine what wellness is. Remember, that's the small I, that's the dimensions. And what that looks like on our campus. Because it's not just the athletes, it's not just the yoga crowd, it's not just those who are able-bodied. Wellness must be for the students with disabilities, those who are larger-bodied, those who are student parents, those students who are grieving, who are unhoused, those who are surviving systems that were not designed for them. If we say student success truly matters, then health and wellness can't just be an afterthought. They must be embedded in the very foundation of our institutions. Just as critical as, the top 3, advising, tutoring, and financial aid. Because a student who is hungry, a student who is anxious, and a student who is unsupported will struggle to be retained, graduate, and to thrive. But success isn't just a one-size-fits-all. It's not only about GPA or graduation rates. Success can mean re-enrolling after a withdrawal, assessing mental health for the very first time, maintaining enrollment while parenting, or managing a chronic illness, or even finding purpose during grief. Can we please redefine success around belonging, resilience, and well-being, and not just about academic performance? To support this broader vision of student success, we need an infrastructure that actually reflects it. And there are so many models of integration, and I'm about to step on some toes. Some of the models that we are very familiar with that I'll name: co-location of services, physical approximation, shared electronic health records, and I'm gonna say it out loud, Counseling, you can share your records with everybody else in the health and wellness field. It is not a breach of HIPAA. I said what I said. Embedded wellness and academic affairs staff in co-located spaces. Coordinated referral pathways and collaborative programming across student and academic affairs departments. We can work together and play nice in the sandbox. But the truth is, if your campus can't even coordinate programming, or if your students have to retell their trauma stories multiple times in multiple offices, then y'all, you shouldn't be fundraising for a new wellness center. The building doesn't create the belonging. The system does. And the system must be collaborative, trauma-informed, equity-centered, and student-ready. This isn't the work of just the health and wellness division. Not just one department. It has to be the standard of the university system. And yet, as AVPs, as mid-levels, as directors, many of us are still navigating the old infrastructures while carrying new expectations. We're being told to lead transformational and engaging work without the authority, the staffing, the funding, the budgets to match. And for the first time ever in over a decade, we're seeing more staff and students arrive on our campus with more chronic illness, diverse identities, and complex needs. But are we really ready for them? We are still asking the same old questions. And we are still not asking even the right questions. Because asking the right questions is what we call, again, population health. We're not asking what services students are already currently receiving, so we can begin, again, early intervention, because that is prevention. If we truly believe in a continuum of care, we must start upstream, before orientation, before the crisis, and before the dropout. One of my favorite quotes says, "Great leaders create spaces where truth is safe and care is actionable." And if we want to make real progress, we must normalize tough conversations about physical and mental health, even within our own teams. So leaders, are you having conversations with your team? Here's a couple of items you can possibly implement. Start by embedding wellness into the way that we work, not just by how we program. That means making wellness a standing agenda item in your team meetings, beginning meetings with intentional check-ins, encouraging leaders to name their own boundaries and limitations, and holding space for conversations around identity, stress, and accommodations. As leaders, I know that can be hard, because sometimes being vulnerable is not safe. But our vulnerability can create a ripple effect. When we speak truthfully, our own experiences give our teams and our students permission to do the same. It gives our students and our staff permission to heal. Psychological safety isn't created by slogans. It's created by consistent, compassionate practices. But I know the reality. Again, some of you came to this conference not just to learn, but just to survive. And let me support that survival is okay. Some are here seeking validation. Some are here to quietly job search. Some are here because we're just doing okay, but want to stay ahead of the game. Whatever your reason for being here, let me share that I see you. all of you. And you're not alone. Because at some point, in every single one of those different examples, I've been there. We often say that we have to have balance. But let's move from the myth of balance and talk about what really is sustainable. Because as a therapist, I'm going to give you the real. It's called alignment. Alignment asks this question: does the way that I live and lead reflect what I value? Does the way that I live and lead reflect what I value? If the answer is no, then something must shift. So here is a few things that I would share from my personal toolbox. My favorite saying is, eat the meat, spit out the bones. If there's certain pieces of this that you can take on, take the pieces that you feel that you can abide by and leave the rest. I build rest into my schedule the same way that I build my meetings. I protect my time with the same urgency I use to protect my team. And my team know that I am a mama bear. I play no games. But my time now has become sacred. I teach my team to do the same by modeling it myself. So wellness isn't just an individual responsibility, it's a leadership imperative. And if we are not well, we can't lead well. And we can't call for institutional change without practicing it in our own spheres of influence. I have a twin sister who used to also be a sitting AVP. She now has left higher ed, going on year 2. But she is the one that got me into this position, so some of this I blame her for. But this year, she gave me our quote for the year. She says, we are revamping the famous quote, empty cup. So our new way of saying is that we're no longer pouring or giving from an empty cup. She says we're only pouring from the overflow. And I asked her what she meant by that. She says we always pour and give to others because we are helping professionals. But we sometimes give even when we are on E or even half full. But she said this year, Ray, because I'm Ray, she's Tay, she says we're only giving if we're full. And we can only give from our abundance. So I charge you with my first affirmation is only give from your abundance. So the quote is, you no longer give from an empty or a half full cup, only give from your overflow. So in a current socio-political climate where we can no longer say the words equity, intersectionality, justice, you know the words, in some rooms, we must learn how to keep doing the work even when we cannot say the words. We show up for our students and for our colleagues, even as the departments are closing and are being defunded. We do the work because for many of us, this is not just a job. It's a career, it's a calling, and for me, this is ministry. Lead whole, live whole. We are not just managing programs or processes, we are shaping culture. Your leadership is not defined by your calendar, your emails, or your title. It is defined by how you care for yourself and for your team, and even the students. So I hope this keynote is more than just a moment. I hope it is sacred. I hope we can move beyond programs to creating environments where people thrive. I hope that we can lead through care and define your leadership by how you nurture yourself, your team, and your students. And I hope that you can embrace sacred interruption and allow this moment to transform your approach to leadership and wellness. So how do we do that? These are 4 commitments that I'm asking for you to take with you. Because if we are going to truly embody responsible leadership, reimagine wellness, and reclaim truth in higher education, then let us move forward with intention, clarity, and boldness. Caveat, I'm stepping on feet, not toes. Number 1, lead upstream, not just after the crisis. Start asking new questions sooner. Who are our students before they arrive? What support systems are they already using? Where are the risks we could have caught earlier? Early care is real care, and it starts before orientation. I said what I said. Number 2, build for who you're recruiting, not who you were built for. As we are all trying to increase our numbers, I'm going to stick with number 2 and say that one more time. Build for who you are recruiting, not who you were built for. If your campus is actively recruiting historically marginalized students, me, then your wellness infrastructure, your student success infrastructure, your student life infrastructure, care practices, and campus climate must evolve in tandem. Systems must shift, not the students. Inclusion without readiness is harm. And you can put that on a t-shirt. I like bedazzle, okay? But inclusion without readiness is truly harm. Number 3, design care into culture, not just the calendar. Move beyond wellness weeks and programming calendars. Embed healing, reflection, rest, and recovery into your team norms. Think small and then think big. Not everything costs money. Build it into your leadership development, into onboarding, into policies. Make care structural and not seasonal, not just into your summer retreats either. Tell the truth, creatively and collectively. Let's all sit with this one for number 4, okay? In spaces where you can't say equity or intersectionality, let me give you some language of what you can say. This is what dignity looks like. This is what access looks like. This is what trust feels like. And my favorite, tell your impact story with data. Numbers speaks for itself. And with conviction. Because you matter, you deserve to be whole. And the future of our higher education system truly depends on leaders who lead with courage and curiosity and creativity and compassion. Courage to challenge outdated systems and advocate for change. Curiosity to continuously learn and adapt to evolving student needs. Conviction to stand firm in your values even when facing resistance. Also conviction to know when it's not your battle. Creativity to find new solutions with limited resources. Sometimes we have to partner. And compassion to lead with empathy for yourself and others. And my affirmation for you, because you know the therapist had to end. May you lead with integrity, aligning your actions with your deepest values and commitments. May you rest without guilt, embracing renewal as essential to sustainable leadership. And may you Know your worth. Recognizing that sacred nature, recognizing the sacred nature of your presence and contribution. And I say that with tears, because as I read this last night to my twin sister, she said, I hope you know you wrote this for yourself. Know your worth. I know this season has been hard for many of us, but I hope this affirmation may remind you to lead with integrity, rest without guilt, use your vacation and sick time, and most importantly, to know your worth. Thank you, I say.